The Teaching of Vimalakīrti. Chapter 7. The Family of the Tathāgatas. Then the Crown Prince Manjushri asked the Lichavi Vimalakīrti, "Noble sir, how does the Bodhisattva follow the way to attain the qualities of the Buddha?" Vimalakīrti replied, "Manjushri, when the Bodhisattva follows the wrong way, he follows the way to attain the qualities of the Buddha." Manjushri continued, "How does the Bodhisattva follow the wrong way?" Vimalakīrti replied, "Even should he enact the 5 deadly sins, he feels no malice, violence, or hate. Even should he go into the hells, he remains free of all taint of afflictions. Even should he go into the states of the animals, he remains free of darkness and ignorance. When he goes into the states of the asuras, he remains free of pride, conceit, and arrogance. When he goes into the realm of the Lord of Death, he accumulates the stores of merit and wisdom. When he goes into the states of motionlessness and immateriality, he does not dissolve therein. He may follow the ways of desire, yet he stays free of attachment to the enjoyments of desire. He may follow the ways of hatred, yet he feels no anger toward any living being. He may follow the ways of folly, yet he is ever conscious with the wisdom of firm understanding. He may follow the ways of avarice, yet he gives away all internal and external things without regard even for his own life. He may follow the ways of immorality, yet, seeing the horror of even the slightest transgressions, he lives by the ascetic practices and austerities. He may follow the ways of wickedness and anger, yet he remains utterly free of malice and lives by love. He may follow the ways of laziness, yet his efforts are uninterrupted as he strives in the cultivation of roots of virtue. He may follow the ways of sensuous distraction, yet, naturally concentrated, his contemplation is not dissipated. He may follow the ways of false wisdom, yet, having reached the transcendence of wisdom, he is expert in all mundane and transcendental sciences. He may show the ways of sophistry and contention, yet he is always conscious of ultimate meanings and has perfected the use of liberative arts. He may show the ways of pride, yet he serves as a bridge and a ladder for all people. He may show the ways of the passions, yet he is utterly dispassionate and naturally pure. He may follow the ways of the Maras, yet he does not really accept their authority in regard to his knowledge of the qualities of the Buddha. He may follow the ways of the disciples, yet he lets living beings hear the teaching they have not heard before. He may follow the ways of the solitary sages, yet he is inspired with great compassion in order to develop all living beings. He may follow the ways of the poor, yet he holds in his hand a jewel of inexhaustible wealth. He may follow the ways of cripples, yet he is beautiful and well adorned with the auspicious signs and marks. He may follow the ways of those of lowly birth, yet through his accumulation of the stores of merit and wisdom, he is born in the family of the Tathāgatas. He may follow the ways of the weak, the ugly, and the wretched, yet he is beautiful to look upon, and his body is like that of Narayana. He may manifest to living beings the ways of the sick and the unhappy, yet he has entirely conquered and transcended the fear of death. He may follow the ways of the rich, yet he is without acquisitiveness and often reflects upon the notion of impermanence. He may show himself engaged in dancing with harem girls, yet he cleaves to solitude, having crossed the swamp of desire. He follows the ways of the dumb and the incoherent, yet, having acquired the power of retention, he is adorned with a varied eloquence. He follows the ways of the outsiders without ever becoming an outsider. He follows the ways of all the world, yet he reverses all states of existence. He follows the way of liberation without ever abandoning the progress of the world. Manjushri, thus does the Bodhisattva follow the wrong ways, thereby following the way to the qualities of the Buddha. Then the Lichavi Vimalakīrti asked the Crown Prince Manjushri, "Manjushri, what is the family of the Tathāgatas?" Manjushri replied, "Noble sir, the family of the Tathāgatas consists of all basic egoism, of ignorance and the thirst for existence, of lust, hate, and folly, of the 4 misapprehensions, of the 5 obscurations, of the 6 sense media, of the 7 abodes of consciousness, of the 8 perverse paths, of the 9 causes of irritation, and of the paths of the 10 sins. Such is the family of the Tathāgatas. In short, noble sir, the 62 kinds of convictions constitute the family of the Tathāgatas." Vimalakīrti: "Manjushri, with what in mind do you say so?" Manjushri: "Noble sir, one who stays in the fixed determination of the vision of the uncreated is not capable of conceiving the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment. However, one who lives among created things, in the minds of passions, without seeing any truth, is indeed capable of conceiving the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Noble sir, flowers like the blue lotus, the red lotus, the white lotus, the water lily, and the moon lily do not grow on the dry ground in the wilderness, but do grow in the swamps and mud banks. Just so, the Buddha qualities do not grow in living beings, certainly destined for the uncreated, but do grow in those living beings who are like swamps and mud banks of passions. Likewise, just as seeds do not grow in the sky, but do grow in the earth, so the Buddha qualities do not grow in those determined for the absolute, but do grow in those who, after having produced a Sumeru-like mountain of egoistic views, conceive the spirit of enlightenment, from which all the Buddha qualities then arise. Noble sir, through these considerations one can understand that all passions constitute the family of the Tathāgatas. Just as, noble sir, without going out into the great ocean, it is impossible to find precious, priceless pearls, so likewise, without going into the ocean of passions, it is impossible to obtain the mind of omniscience." Then the elder Mahākāśyapa applauded the Crown Prince Manjushri. "Good, good, Manjushri. This is indeed well spoken. This is right. The passions do indeed constitute the family of the Tathāgatas. How can such as we, the disciples, conceive the spirit of enlightenment or become fully enlightened in regard to the qualities of the Buddha? Only those guilty of the 5 deadly sins can conceive the spirit of enlightenment and can attain Buddhahood, which is the full accomplishment of the qualities of the Buddha. Just as the 5 desire objects have no impression or effect on those bereft of faculties, in the same way, all the qualities of the Buddha have no impression or effect on the disciples, who have abandoned all adherences. Thus the disciples can never appreciate those qualities. Therefore, Manjushri, the ordinary individual is grateful to the Tathāgata, but the disciples are not grateful. Why? Ordinary individuals, upon learning of the virtues of the Buddha, conceive the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment in order to ensure the uninterrupted continuity of the heritage of the 3 jewels. But the disciples, although they may hear of the qualities, powers, and fearlessnesses of the Buddha until the end of their days, are not capable of conceiving the spirit of unexcelled perfect enlightenment. Thereupon, the Bodhisattva Sarva Rupa Samdarshana, who was present in that assembly, addressed the Lichavi Vimalakīrti. Householder, where are your father and mother, your children, your wife, your servants, your maids, your labourers, and your attendants? Where are your friends, your relatives, and your kinsmen? Where are your servants, your horses, your elephants, your chariots, your bodyguards, and your bearers? Thus addressed, the Lichavi Vimalakīrti spoke the following verses to the Bodhisattva Savarupa Samdarshana. Of the true Bodhisattvas, the mother is the transcendence of wisdom. The father is the skill in liberative technique. The leaders are born of such parents. Their wife is the joy in the Dharma. Love and compassion are their daughters. The Dharma and the truth are their sons. And their home is deep thought on the meaning of voidness. All the passions are their disciples, controlled at will. Their friends are the aids to enlightenment. Thereby they realize supreme enlightenment. Their companions, ever with them, are the 6 transcendences. Their consorts are the means of unification. Their music is the teaching of the Dharma. The incantations make their garden, which blossoms with the flowers of the factors of enlightenment, with trees of the great wealth of the Dharma, and fruits of the gnosis of liberation. Their pool consists of the 8 liberations, filled with the water of concentration, covered with the lotuses of the 7 purities. Who bathes therein becomes immaculate. Their bearers are the 6 superknowledges. Their vehicle is the unexcelled Mahāyāna. Their driver is the spirit of enlightenment, and their path is the 8-fold peace. Their ornaments are the 8 auspicious signs and the 80 marks. Their garland is virtuous aspiration, and their clothing is good consciousness, good conscience and consideration. Their wealth is the holy Dharma, and their business is its teaching. Their great income is pure practice, and it is dedicated to the supreme enlightenment. Their bed consists of the 4 contemplations, and its spread is the pure livelihood. Their awakening consists of gnosis, which is constant learning and meditation. Their food is the ambrosia of the teachings, and their drink is the juice of liberation. Their bath is pure aspiration, and morality their unguent and perfume. Having conquered the enemy afflictions, they are the invincible heroes. Having subdued the 4 maras, they raise their standard on the field of enlightenment. They manifest birth voluntarily, yet they are not born, nor do they originate. They shine in all the fields of the Buddhas, just like the rising sun. Though they worship Buddhas by the millions with every conceivable offering, they never dwell upon the least difference between the Buddhas and themselves. They journey through all Buddha fields in order to bring benefit to living beings. Yet they see those fields as just like empty space, free of any conceptual notions of living beings. The fearless bodhisattvas can manifest all in a single instant the forms, sounds, and manners of behavior of all living beings. Although they recognize the deeds of maras, they can get along even with these maras, for even such activities may be manifested by those perfected in liberative art. They play with illusory manifestations in order to develop living beings, showing themselves to be old or sick, and even manifesting their own deaths. They demonstrate the burning of the earth in the consuming flames of the world's end, in order to demonstrate impermanence to living beings convinced about permanence. Invited by hundreds of thousands of living beings, all in the same country, they partake of offerings at the homes of all, and dedicate all for the sake of enlightenment. They excel in all esoteric sciences, and in the many different crafts, and they bring forth the happiness of all living beings. By devoting themselves as monks to all the strange sects of the world, they develop all those beings who have attached themselves to dogmatic views. They may become suns or moons, chakras, brahmas, or lords of creatures. They may become fire or water, or earth or wind. During the short eons of maladies, they become the best holy medicine. They make beings well and happy, and bring about their liberation. During the short eons of famine, they become food and drink. Having first alleviated thirst and hunger, they teach the Dharma to living beings. During the short eons of swords, they meditate on love, introducing to non-violence hundreds of millions of living beings. In the middle of great battles, they remain impartial to both sides, for bodhisattvas of great strength delight in reconciliation of conflict. In order to help living beings, they voluntarily descend into the hells which are attached to all the inconceivable Buddha fields. They manifest their lives in all the species of the animal kingdom, teaching the Dharma everywhere. Thus, they are called leaders. They display sensual enjoyment to the worldlings and trances to the meditative. They completely conquer the Maras and allow them no chance to prevail. Just as displaying a lotus amidst a fire is miraculous, so they display the miracles of both pleasures and trances. They intentionally become courtesans in order to win men over, and having caught them with the hook of desire, they establish them in the Buddha. In order to help living beings, they always become chieftains, captains, priests, and ministers, or even prime ministers. For the sake of the poor, they become inexhaustible treasuries, causing those to whom they give their gifts to conceive the spirit of enlightenment. They become invincible champions for the sake of the proud and the vain, and having conquered all their pride, they start them on the quest for enlightenment. They always stand at the head of those terrified with fright, and having bestowed fearlessness upon them, they develop them toward enlightenment. They become great holy men with the super-knowledges and pure continence, and thus induce living beings to the morality of tolerance, gentleness, and discipline. Here in the world, they fearlessly behold those who are masters to be served, and they become their servants or slaves, or serve as their disciples. Well trained in liberative art, they demonstrate all activities, whichever possibly may be a method to make beings delight in the Dharma. Their practices are infinite, and their spheres of influence are infinite. Having perfected an infinite wisdom, they liberate an infinity of living beings. Even for the Buddhas themselves, during 1,000,000 eons, or even 100 million eons, it would be hard to express all their virtues. Except for some inferior living beings without any intelligence at all, is there anyone with any discernment who, having heard this teaching, would not wish for the supreme enlightenment